Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Thursday, February 19th, 2009. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London. In Mexico City, it's 9:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. We'll have the interview with Sue Langley as the lead story. We have some breaking news first, economic news from the United States. The unemployment numbers continue to look bad. The number of Americans collecting unemployment benefits jumped to 4.99 million people 2 weeks ago. This breaks a record for the fourth straight time. The total benefit rolls surged by another 170,000 in the week ending the 7th of February. First-time applications for unemployment benefits were unchanged at 627,000 last week, higher than what economists had expected. However, some interesting news. This just came out. The index of leading U.S. economic indicators rose more than expected during the month of January, led by a jump in money supply that masked continued deterioration elsewhere in the economy. This comes from the Conference Board. Their gauge rose 0.4%. This is the most since December of 2006. Analysts had been predicting that the gauge would increase only 0.1%. This is from an economist named Ken Goldstein at the Conference Board. He said, the economy has been in recession for over a year, this we know, but the level of intensity may begin to ease over the next few months. The second half of 2009 may see a period of anemic growth. We're grasping at straws when that's a silver lining. The stock market is up about 3.5 points right now. Now to our main news. We have a whole raft of stories on Swiss Re, but we'll get to them next. As you may know, we've been announcing the interview with Sue Langley, the Director of Market Operations in North America at Lloyd's. This is in response to the recent announcement made at Lloyd's about the Lloyd's Exchange. The interview with Ms. Langley occurred about an hour ago. We'll play it in its entirety. It's about 9.5 minutes long. We'll go to it now. All right, as promised, we have the interview today with Sue Langley, who is the Director of Operations and North America at Lloyd's. And CATEX has been a big fan of Sue Langley back from her days at Hiscox with her initiative with the G6. So we'll have a little chat with her today about the news recently about the Lloyd's Exchange. Sue, are you with us this morning?
I am indeed. You say all the right things as well.
Well, very good. Thank you. We have the very complimentary picture of you up that actually doesn't do you justice. But let me ask you a question. The banner headlines about the Lloyd's Exchange led many people in the U.S. at least to think that, in fact, what had happened was the setting off of something parallel to what Superintendent Dinello was talking about in New York with the New York Insurance Exchange. And the word exchange seemed to be being used in much more of a bourse kind of connotation. And then from my understanding from reading careful reports of people who've attended your briefings in the old library at Lloyd's, the exchange is perhaps more properly categorized in an informational transmittal kind of sense rather than a bourse extent. Could you perhaps talk a little bit about that and maybe clear that up for us?
Sure, you're completely right. I mean, we have a Lloyd's Exchange and we have a room downstairs where people come in and do face-to-face, day-to-day trading, as you know. This is more of a virtual exchange in terms of how do you support that environment right through the life cycle in terms of carrying the information that the market needs around the room or around the world electronically. So it's taking what we have and building on it. It's nothing new. It's not a launch, and no, it's not linked to the New York Exchange.
So to the extent the effort will be successful, what you're going to be doing is, as much as possible, replicating the processes already extant on the floor.
The interesting thing about this initiative is, I mean, you know, there's been previous initiatives in this space.
Yes, that whole group of alphabet soup acronyms. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're trying to avoid those. those actually did try to impose or deliver a process and a way of working. What the Lloyd's Exchange is actually doing is just carrying the information, and it doesn't impose a way of working on the market or on any individual company at all. Because one of the issues, or one of the advantages we actually have in Lloyd's, is that we've got multiple players with different business objectives, with different business models, and who operate in different geographies. And it's very difficult to put a one-size-fits-all, I'm sure, as you can imagine, process. So taking a completely different approach, what the Lloyd's Exchange actually aims to do is say, okay, the process and how you work is entirely down to you, but the one common denominator is the information that everyone uses in the market, and we are going to impose electronic standards on the information to be carried and also the means by which to carry it.
Well, let me ask a question then that I think is sort of begging to be asked. Lloyd's has a very capable team in place now with Richard Ward, with yourself, and some others, people who have very good policy backgrounds, as well as, in many instances, very proficient IT backgrounds. If you're going to afford that kind of freedom to the participants, doesn't that then naturally also extend to the, I guess, potential changes in any subsequent regulatory developments down the line? I mean, if you're going to be able to allow people to transact business in any way they wish, so long as they use the proper information standards, I mean, you're really making it ready now for Lloyd's to change as the future forces it to change, perhaps to better compete with Bermuda and elsewhere.
I think the two are actually quite separate. The regulatory environment is tightly governed here, as you know, tightly governed on a global basis. And just because we're permitting the way that, when I say the way that you carry out business, I mean the way that you transact business and the way that you process business, not the geographies in which you write and the licenses under which you write. You're right, I understand where you're going with that question. You're right that it actually potentially starts to open up possibilities. But that's a long way down the line, and the possibilities around how that can process, not the type of business you write.
I would be remiss if I also didn't ask about Rushicon. Are you, I guess from the layman's perspective, if you will, if you look at this and you see the Lloyd's Exchange, you see the Rushicon effort, and you see what Superintendent Dinello is talking about in New York about reviving the New York Insurance Exchange, I mean, how does the Lloyd's Exchange fit into this? Or is it something more along the lines of you folks taking the bull by the horns and wresting the Lloyd's market into the 21st century, and if everybody else falls into place, great. Oh, I can imagine.
That's a very good question. I think that's a very good question. I mean, if I take the Lloyd's Exchange, first of all, it's one of the strengths of Lloyd's is that we've got, huge diversity in our participants. But what Lloyd's centrally does well is, apart from obviously maintaining the global licenses and in terms of the cost of capital, making it very attractive to write business here, is it sets guidelines and franchise guidelines and standards under which to operate. The Lloyd's Exchange essentially is stepping into that space and saying, these are just electronic standards. If you want to work in the Lloyd's market, these are the electronic standards that you have to follow. The Rushicon initiative is along the same lines, and that's focusing on accounting. It's claims of Swiss strength. We welcome this initiative, and I think there was some confusion at first when they were both announced, saying, well, is one going to compete with the other? Absolutely not. Neither of us has got the desire to do that. The Rushicon initiative pilot is running till 2010. We have someone from their group on our steering group and vice versa. And we're making sure that we follow exactly the same pool standards. So assuming, or when, both pilots are success, the two can just be brought together. We have no interest in duplicating anything that Rushicon do, and they have no interest in duplicating anything that we do. So I think those fit very well. The New York Insurance Exchange is a different beast, if you like, because that's not around a technology or a standard. That's around introducing more of a local subscription model within